Appreciate that. And we now have the following deputations are all related to item 6, which is the Zone Committee updates. And I'd like to welcome Professor Aile Marsden and Dr Tim Lindley from the Avon Heathcote Estuary Ihitai Trust to come and talk to us. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Morena, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm the Deputy Chair of the Avon Heathcote Estuary Trust, or more commonly called the Estuary Trust, which is a non-profit making organisation which has relationships with the City Council, Environment Canterbury and local Runanga. We have a management plan which includes visions and goals, which include maintaining clean water, healthy ecosystems and wise management resources in the estuary. With me today is Tim Lindley, and he's a board member. He's going to present the second part of our session here. Our focus as a trust is in maintaining a healthy estuary, and today we want to support the Christchurch West Milton Zone Committee's initiative in their Waterways Partnership Charter. This is, we know we are all interested in the effects of stormwater on communities, and in an estuary it's particularly important because the estuary receives waters from the rivers, stormwaters, groundwater, a lot of inputs, and so everything that comes into the estuary can accumulate there, and that's because the tide goes in and out, so point discharges go in, out so far, but then they come back. During that process, because of the mixing of the seawater, it means that the contaminants, whatever they are, sediment or other contaminants, can accumulate, be deposited in the estuary, and so the estuary is accumulating these effects. So what we want to, we realise that there's a lot of good work being done in infrastructure, improving the conditions in the rivers and the estuary, but we believe, just as the West Milton Zone Committee does, that this can be improved if there's community partnerships, and we're one of the organisations which fully supports this in the work that we do. Tim, you going to carry on?
Yeah, sure. Kia ora tātou. I'm Tim Lindley. I'm on the Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board. Some of you might remember me for that, but I'm here today representing the Avon Heathcote Ihitai Estuary Trust. It's pretty simple, really. There's a raft of issues affecting all of our waterways. There's human modification of the estuary edge and disturbances, there's loss of food, there's pest organisms, and there's lack of connection between the rivers and the sea. Our trust is working on many of these, but across the whole waterways network, there are multiple projects being driven by multiple community groups. City Council, you folk, have an important role across all of these and are engaged with all of these groups, which means that as a city we seem to be moving in the right direction at last in treasuring our waterways, improving our waterways, but we've got a long way to go yet. And it seems to me that the Community Waterways Partnership is an important step in helping capture the synergies that different groups have. It seems crucial that City Council, which has such a central role across the waterways, commits to the Charter. So we support the West Milton Water Zone Committee's recommendation to you today. About our trust, we have multiple projects going on: marsh restoration, so there's Charlesworth Reserve, community events, we run Farewelling the Godwits, the mother of all cleanups, support for community education, student research projects, etc. It's actually quite an exciting group to belong to. So on behalf of us, and we implore you to sign up to this charter and help people work together better. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That's a really good insight to what you people are actually doing to protect the estuary, and I thank you for that too. I know you do incredible work. So we've got a few minutes if anyone has any questions. No other questions? Okay. free to go. Thank you very much. So now we're just going to swap round 4.2 and 4.3. So it's Evan now, is it? Yeah. So welcome Evan Smith from the Avon Takaro Network.
Kia ora koutou. Evan from Avon Takaro Network, talking on behalf of the network here today. We're here along with the other river care groups because we care about our waterways. We have a strong sense of kaitiakitanga toward our waterways and a passion for it. We also, from Avon and Takaro Network's perspective, from our experience, know the power of collaboration and partnership between networks of organisations with shared values and vision. Restoration projects such as our Mahinga Kai exemplar, which was a collaboration between local, regional and central government, iwi, universities, schools and community, is an example of such powerful collaboration. Mother of all cleanups between all the river care groups, council and city care is another good example where 45 different community groups and over 750 volunteers clean up the riversides of the Takaro or Pawaho in the Ietai on an annual basis. We also collaborated strongly on joint submissions to get the booms reinstated in the rivers and to get to submit on the stormwater discharge consent process. We need to apply this collaboration and partnership to stormwater issues, particularly addressing stormwater issues at source. And that requires a high level of community awareness raising, education and effecting behaviour change within the community. We also aware from our work in the experience in Avon Takaro Network the value of shared vision and values, of a shared kaupapa that informs all our decision making. That also means that we have shared objectives and outcomes, shared approaches and shared behaviours. And it's important that this is across all stakeholders, whether community, iwi, universities or agencies, and across all urban catchments. And that's what the Community Water Partnership is about. We also are aware of the value of a partnering charter, for example, the Avon Charter. It's an expression of shared vision and an expression of an intent to all work together to achieve that vision. And it also expresses the mechanism to achieve this. The process by which the partnership agreement came about was a workshop in October 2018 after some preparatory work by representatives of community organisations, council and ECAN. And the Community Water Partnership Charter and draft was agreed. And now we're at a point where we want endorsement and sign up from the key agencies so we can encourage more community groups to join the collective. The role of the Zone Committee is in providing leadership and mana to this, to spearhead the recommendations to yourself and to Environment Canterbury on behalf of community. So what does it look like and why is it? Recent surveys that the Council conducted show that there's still a very low level of awareness within community of where the water that goes down our drains goes to. Many think still that it goes into the sewer and ends up in Bromley. It doesn't. It ends up in our rivers. It's a completely different system to the sewage system. So what's wrong? What's wrong? What we need to do and inform the community is what's wrong with our rivers and why that's wrong and how we could possibly fix it. People want to know how can they find out more about this. It's very hard to find that information on the various websites. We need a one-stop shop with very key messages for community. People want to know what they can do. There needs to be calls to action and very clear step-by-step guides of what can be done. And how do we change the hearts and minds and behaviour of community to change things at source? We start with the open minds, with the kids. They're the most receptive to these ideas and to understanding this. They understand it, they get it very quickly. Once they get it, the parents get it and the grandparents get it. And it's really important that we have some resources to ensure that we can take these messages out to schools and out to the community in events. So how do we bring it home? Here's an example of a resource that is currently in production, a trailer of resources for teaching and making people aware about stormwater and how to address these things at household level. That's what an example of what the Community Water Partnership is about. I just wanted to quickly now just talk about some frustrations, I guess, from my part. So we're here today to ask Council to endorse the Community Water Partnership, but not just to endorse it, to support it and to resource it. This is the third or fourth time I've made a plea in a deputation in support of the Community Water Partnership. It's been around for a while, yet we've had no real action on this to date from Council, and that is shameful. This is why the River Care groups jointly submitted on the stormwater discharge consent to ensure Council had a legal obligation to take such action. We shouldn't have to had to coerce you in this way, but if that's what it takes, so be it. We have done so unashamedly. Now you're obliged to demonstrate how you will work with community to action community awareness and education programs about householders can address stormwater quality and quantity issues at individual household level and effect real behaviour change that enhances our waterways. Endorsing, supporting and resourcing the partnership is how you can do this. We need resourcing internally within Council to staff facilitation of this work, and we need resourcing for River Care groups to support the work in the community. For too long, we have been invited to contribute significantly to work on these projects alongside Council and ECAN staff, but we do so pro bono on a voluntary basis. We can only do that for so long. If you value our input so much, you need to start funding it. Resourcing the partnership and its objectives amounts to a very small drop in the bucket compared to the hundreds of millions you invest in Three Waters infrastructure each year, yet it could provide exceptional value for money in terms of potential results. You've recognised the climate crisis and the ecological crisis. The latter includes the ecology of our waterways as well as our terrestrial ecosystems. It's now time for action. It's time to wake up and put your money where your mouth is. Show some leadership here. Endorse, support and resource this initiative. Don't make us have to come back yet another year and do the same old deputation again. We owe it to our mokopuna, our grandchildren, to take action. Thank you. Ngā mihi nui. Any questions?
Kia ora, thank you very much for a very succinct and pointed message there, Evan. I appreciate that. Are there any questions, Evan? And I know you have been before, it is a matter of our resources as well, but what we're looking at here is perhaps like a three-pronged approach, supporting the community to step in and not only help clean up historical stuff, but actually to reduce and educate people to reduce actually putting the contaminants in there in the first place, and then we need Council resourcing our infrastructure as well to actually clean up any waters that do carry sediment and whatever down. So we know what to do, we just need to find a way to get there to do it. Sorry, Yanni, did you have a quick question there?
And sorry, I was just trying to find the charter, but it's my understanding from the charter, it doesn't bind any of the groups to do anything. So I'm failing to see how that charter is actually going to address the concerns that you've raised.
It's an expression of an intent to work together for a common vision. The groups wish to remain autonomous, as I'm sure Council does as well, to make your own decisions, but it doesn't mean to say that we can't work as a whole. Nothing is binding in it, but people didn't want their activities bound by the charter. But it's an expression of intent that we have very common values and common vision, and we'll work together to realise that.
Address what I think is one of the key points of your deputation, which is around the resourcing issue.
It provides the basis for that. It provides the framework by which we can some degree of accountability, but it also provides the framework within which resourcing can be put in place so that some staff can help facilitate the initiatives that come out of the partnership, one of which is that stormwater resource, the trailer resource. We're going to need funding to train people in how to use that so when they go out to the community. Where does the money for that come from? The money needs to be set aside for community water partnership initiatives.
Right. So do you think, just to finally clarify that point, do you think when we agree to this, we should be setting aside a budget allocation to achieve,
For the last
put resources into achieving?
couple of LTPs and annual plans, there's been provision for $1 million set aside on an annual basis for the community water partnership. That's always been redlined out. Yet it's a very insignificant part of the whole infrastructure Three Waters spend. And that small amount of money could produce enormous results in the community and then in the waterways. It's a smart way to use money to produce results.
And final question.
Erin, just in terms of if council endorses this, is there a sense that will bring some mana to it, which will then attract funding from others as well?
Absolutely.
Right,
Yes.
so it's an important step.
Absolutely,
In
yes.
acknowledging. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent deputation.
Thank you.
And to invite Annabelle Hasselman from the Opawaho Heathcote River Network to also talk to us about the partnership. Welcome, Annabelle.
Morena.
Love the T-shirt.
Morena, I'm Annabelle Hasselman and I'm the chair of the Opawaho Heathcote River Network, and I'm really here just to reinforce the words of the groups that have gone before me in making a plea to the council to support the Community Water Charter. And the OHRN, the Opawaho Heathcote River Network, and all the groups before me support the Community Water Charter Partnership, and the City Council needs, as Evan has reinforced, needs to provide funding and support to enable it to uphold its conditions of the global stormwater consent, which is where this has come out of, one of the issues. And it's not only to reinforce actions, it's to reinforce behaviour change within the community and to support community groups who are a key interface between the City Council and agencies and the actual community. The purpose of the Charter is really developing that community water engagement program through education and awareness. And if the Charter is a collaboration, it's all about collaboration, it's about coordination, and it's about consistency. And that's got the Christchurch City Council all over it, really. And you can see in collaboration, we can achieve more together than as separate groups. Coordination, the Charter provides an instrument to help us share information and resources. And consistency, a consistent message to the community. It's no point each individual group devising things. It just makes it so much stronger if we can pool resources and have one consistent message to try and enforce behaviour change. What is the impact of the Community Water Charter Partnership and its charter? It will initiate behaviour change amongst our community. It will improve the health of our precious waterways, and it will identify the City Council as a lead agency in that change. And my final word is support the Community Water Partnership. Why wouldn't you?
Thank you. So where is that, Annabelle? Where is that picture? Trying to run away.
Oh,
The
sorry.
year 12s did it. Yeah.
Oh, really? Did they?
Yeah, I opened it. The second period set of toilets I opened. Yeah, they're far more colourful than the first.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think you've answered Yanni's question previously quite well too, talking about collaboration, coordination and consistency. This that's a resource in itself.
Yeah, yeah.
And to tap into that once we build this thing, I think it's a brilliant idea. Are there any questions for Annabelle? No? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now I invite Bill Swallow, the network of the Ilam Stream. Welcome, Bill.
Sorry. Hi. Bill? Thank you. I'd like to thank the council for allowing us the chance to have this deputation. It's great. Thank you. So my name's Bill Swallow. I represent the network of the Ilam Stream, and I'm here with my colleague Bill Carroll. We like to keep it simple in our society, so everyone's named the same. So what I'd like to do is just to sort of paint a brief picture of what our society is about, what's achieved and what we'd like to do, and how this relates to the community water partnership. So just to give you a background on the Ilam Stream, just to refresh your memory, it flows from Avonhead Park, and you can see it in the background of the slide up there, and it wends its way through many houses and through, well, besides Avonhead Park, goes through Crosby Park and then into the university grounds close to the staff club. Photos from the 1920s show that the stream had plenty of water in it, but over the decades it has tended to dry out, and this is a problem with the streams in the northwest of Christchurch. And it's really important that a stream has water in it, because if it doesn't have water in it, people just treat it as a drain. And there's a huge difference in people's perceptions of amenity value between streams and drains. Our society has been operating for over 16 years, and we've worked closely with the Christchurch City Council and the Selwyn District Council. In fact, that was one of the plans for putting water into the stream. The stream flowing through Avonhead Park there actually comes from a water race in Ryan's Road, and the council put the waterway through Avonhead Park to put it through to the headwaters of the Ilam Stream. Our society has run several planting days, and we had a very successful planting day planting the banks of that stream up there. We had over 80 people from the local community. We work closely with the local community. We've just had another successful planting day with the local guides in Crosby Park. And we find that working with young people is a wonderful thing. It gives us some energy, and it's great to see the enthusiasm. So, what needs to be done? While we've been active for over 16 years, there's still much work to be done to improve the stream's amenity value, biodiversity and ecological health. As I said previously, most people like the idea of a stream bubbling through their property, but they're quite averse to having a stormwater drain with all its inherent problems of flash flows and flush contaminants. To us, to our community, the chief thing is for people to have a positive attitude towards stormwater flows, or streams as I should say, because we want to keep that emphasis on it being a stream rather than just a drain. And I guess one of the key things we keep coming back to, particularly for the Ilam Stream, is the fact that it needs that regular flow of water through it. It's absolutely vital. And I mean, it's been a huge improvement having the water coming from the water race in terms of how people view the stream. But we still have our problems with intermittent flow, even with water from the water race. So we've been petitioning the council to try and help us solve that problem as well. So I guess one of the things that we've learned over the years too is it's a pretty complex situation out there, and if it was simple, I suppose someone would fix it. And I think that's why we appreciate having the community partnership, is it helps to give an idea of what the priorities are, and it gives people a chance to talk to them as well. So we thoroughly endorse the idea of the community partnership and urge the council to sign up to it. So thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. That's wonderful, and I particularly like what you said about, you know, working with the young people as well. It's an intergenerational thing, and they learn, you learn. And Asylum Stream, does that's spring-fed as well? It's a spring-fed stream?
It may have used to have been, but it's not anymore. It's fed from the water race that comes
Entirely
down.
from the water race now?
Yes, yes.
So why does that have intermittent flow still then? Is the water race not consistent?
Well, the water race, the intake gets blocked up every now and particularly when it's flooding. And also, at some stage too, people do use the water race for irrigating their land, and there's no controls on the water race. There's no control on the water that they can take out of it. Although they've got allowances, there's no way of measuring it.
Right, oh, that's interesting.
And so it does dry up, particularly when the weather gets dry.
Ah, there you go, you learn something every day. And are there any intention for Selwyn to retire that water race, do you know?
Is there any intention, sorry, what?
Well, the Selwyn Council's looking at retiring some of the water races because they're maintaining them all.
Yes, that's certainly one of the problems as well. We went along to a meeting of the West Melton zone, and there were representatives because we were a bit worried that they might be closing the water race down.
Yeah.
And I guess we were quite delighted at the reasonably strong support that the particular water race got from the councillors, from the Selwyn District Council councillors.
That's good.
But things may have moved on from that. I think it's always a worry.
I think it's
Right.
continually under assessment because of the land use change in the Selwyn district, as is reduced amount of sheep farming particularly, which used to use water races,
Yeah.
and an increase in the amount of dairying,
Yeah, and
who
Central
don't use the
Plains
water
will
race,
still
and-
too.
but
Yeah.
everybody gets levied, so there's pressure on the people who require the water race to pay more and offset the levies that are going to people who don't use it.
Right.
I
So
I
think
believe that the City Council pays the Selwyn District Council a substantial sum of order to keep the water races going, and we want to see the city get value.
Right, thank you. Couple of minutes of questions. Yanni?
Thank you. I note that you've also raised this with the local community board. Have you heard back from that process?
We've done a couple of presentations to the local community board. The one that we did recently was in June. We haven't had a reply on that yet.
And that was pretty much addressing the same issues you've raised today around trying to keep the flow.
Yes, it was, yeah.
Pauline, I can probably answer that if you want, because I've been
Yes.
going through it. Yeah, so there were two things, and the guys are quite right. First of all, they came in and there were leaks around the stream quite a way through, so the staff were able to go and fix that. But the second one was a lot more comprehensive in terms of the presentation, and we actually got an update about 10 days ago to say that staff are still working on it, but what we're going to do is include it as a community board priority plan, so that we can feed it into annual plans and long-term plans. So it certainly hasn't been forgotten, and we talk quite often about it. So
Yeah.
it's not that nothing's happening.
I was just trying to understand the reporting from whether we'll get something through to this committee or whether it'll just go through the community board. I mean, I don't mind either way, but it would be just good to have clarity around that process.
Yeah, I've just picked that up with Dave, actually, wondering what way we could take this, but I'm really pleased that it's going into your plan. So I would say that would be, so long as you communicate with the committee or through council, that would be excellent. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Thanks, Bill, and thanks, Bill. Really appreciate you coming in, and
Thank you
thanks for
very
the work you're doing. Okay, and we have the last one, which is Dr. Edward Challies. He's a senior lecturer of the Waterways Centre for Freshwater Management at the University of Canterbury and Lincoln University. Welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou, good morning, and thanks also from me for the opportunity to speak to the committee today. I work at the Waterways Centre for Freshwater Management, and I work in the field of water resource management, policy and governance. And I want to speak, as others have done, to agenda item 6, and particularly the Community Waterways Partnership Charter Initiative. I've got a statement written down here because I want to try and be concise, so I'll probably more or less read this. But I want to start by recognising the vision and hard work of the community members and the City Council and ECAN staff who have together put so much work and effort into formulating the Charter and building the relationships on which it rests. The Charter and the support that it has received so far, I think, are indicative of the incredible amount of commitment and energy directed towards caring for our urban water environment and our waterways in Christchurch by dedicated staff at both councils, in the City Council and in ECAN, and also by a range of incredibly motivated community groups and stakeholders. The kind of partnership among stakeholders that the Community Waterways Partnership and Charter signal is precisely the kind of collaboration that will enable us to tackle the considerable challenges facing water management in our city, and indeed, I think, in our wider region and in the country. So the area that I work in and the field in which I do research, it's clear that research and practice is increasingly, in the field of water governance, is increasingly recognising the reciprocal nature of the relationship between the health of waterways, or the water environment on the one hand, and the well-being of people and communities on the other. Te hau ora o te wai and te hau ora o te tangata. There's a growing recognition amongst researchers, and I think also amongst policymakers and water resource managers, that top-down technical approaches on their own are not sufficient to manage water resources effectively or sustainably. Community engagement and collaborative governance, which provides those who live in and make use of the urban water environment with opportunities to participate meaningfully in decision-making and management, is also crucial. The Community Waterways Partnership is, I believe, in line with the Council's vision of inclusivity and possibility and the overarching principle of partnership that's so central in the strategic framework. Research and experience in collaborative water governance shows that strong partnership in this space can underpin positive outcomes for the environment and for communities. A variety of stakeholders working well together and in alignment can achieve much more for their local environment, as well as build a stronger sense of community and increased capability amongst those groups, and in the end, increased community resilience. A Community Waterways Partnership will certainly help the Council, as others have mentioned, to comply with its comprehensive stormwater discharge consent, but I think it will also contribute in concrete ways to all of the Council's community outcomes, and particularly to fostering a healthy environment and strong communities. And those two really are reciprocal in nature and mutually reinforcing. It would directly serve Council's strategic priorities in the short to medium term and beyond. So just on a personal note, it's been a privilege for me to work with and observe some of the groups that have driven the development of the Partnership Charter, and people who really live and breathe the spirit of partnership that the Charter carries. I want to commend the Christchurch West Mountain Zone Committee for stepping up as the first signatory to the Charter, and to strongly urge the City Council to also endorse the Charter by following suit. I think this would send a really strong and positive signal to the community groups who are already so invested in this effort, like the council itself is, and reinforce the council's commitment to working together for the well-being of communities and the environment. So I'll leave it at that, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for giving up your time to come in and endorse the Charter.
Pleasure.
Are there any questions for Edward? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.